Now, we've got celebration news today. Breaking news from yesterday. Coach Mike, let us know what's up.
Man, just when I thought, you know what, I got to realistically just part ways with Ben Johnson emotionally. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause when you look at the market, and you look at, Sean Payton is obviously probably number one on everybody's list on the market. But then who's number two? And I'd say Ben Johnson's number two. And that's not just me being a biased Lions fan. That's being, look at our history. When you got a coordinator who can revive the Lions offense, everybody want him. Like he's articulate. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like he must know something. So that had me like, you know what, I gotta get ready just to, like, hey Ben, I'm not gonna turn down the raise. I'm not. I don't care how much I love the team. I'm not turning down the raise. I'm not turning down a promotion, a raise, or none of that. Like I'll take it and just deal with whatever when it happens. So I understand where if Ben Johnson would have left. But ding dong, at the last hour, Ben Johnson said, you know what? I think I'm gonna stay in Detroit. I'm trying to stick this out, man. And you know what? It speaks volumes to what they're trying to build in Detroit, because that shows you that Detroit Lion fans are not just hype on us and we're just hyping the team up. Ben Johnson believes that we can cross that threshold next season to becoming a possible Super Bowl contender. I mean, when you look at that first round of the playoffs, that Super Wildcard round of the playoffs, there was no team in the NFC that we couldn't beat. Like there isn't in the playoffs. There was no team. Like you look at two teams that we beat, Minnesota and the Giants, and you're like, we in the divisional round. You know what I'm saying? We going to the next round. So yeah, man, it just shows you that this is proof in the pudding that we are this close. We are this close to becoming successful. I don't think when Ben Johnson really weighed it, and he really weighed how much money he would get next year if he left in 2024, and he took the Lions to the playoffs, and we got a playoff victory, versus if he went now before the Lions scratched the surface. I think he sees more money and a bigger payday next season. And also I think he thinks too, the jobs just aren't worth the risk right now. If you look at Carolina, there's nothing they can add that's going to put them in the Super Bowl contention. There's nothing, you know what I'm saying? That roster kind of got to be fine tuned. Denver's roster, that's a cap hell situation. So they're the Cardinals, that's a cap hell situation. They gotta figure some shit out. They trying to figure out how to get rid of DeAndre Hopkins. Kyler Murray, so I don't think that there's any situation worth going to be the head coach of this year. When you look at the position Detroit Lions could possibly be in next year, I think he wants to ride that out, and then maybe he'll go and to a head coaching job. But I'm thankful Ben John. Like I feel like in the last 48 hours, like that's what I'm wearing this U of M hat. I feel like in the last 48 hours, man, like people stop playing with me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Jim Harbaugh was like, you know what, Michigan, I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna be back next year. And then finally, last night in the evening time, I'm eating my dinner. Ben Johnson wanted to be like, I'm coming back. So I'm like, I'm like, some stress is relieved off of me. I ain't gonna have to be at nobody's house, threatening nobody. So I'm happy, man. Like, I'm good. I'm good because I really didn't want to have to go to nobody's house in Depot, nobody to coming back. So yeah, man. Shout out to Ben Johnson, man. And shout out to Jim Harbaugh too, man. But what are your thoughts on Ben Johnson coming back to the D, baby?
I'm excited, man. I've said, like, selfishly, I didn't want him to leave, but I understand. Like, like you said, Coach Mike, a lot of people ain't turning down no raise, no matter what it is. Like, no matter what the situation is, we'll figure it out later. I'm a head coach now. I got that on my resume, like, forever and ever and ever, right? But I think it's a couple things. I think, and you said them all. I think that maybe the situations weren't quite right this year, and if the situation wasn't quite right, then maybe they wasn't willing to give him the autonomy that maybe he might have wanted. And I don't know what that might mean. Maybe that's picking his own offensive staff and picking his own. Maybe he got a guy in mind to coach his defense up or something. I don't know. Maybe everything just wasn't where he wanted it at, and he was like, nah. Maybe the pay wasn't. Because we didn't really, we were right there. I know y'all see the meme where it's all the teams, where it's the guy celebrating. He the team, the last team on the thing. So we didn't make it. We had a good season, but we didn't. There's a lot of things that people could use against him. So maybe they weren't willing to. Maybe the check wasn't right, or maybe he like you also said, we really about to do this. So I want to be here. Like, I feel like we can do this. I want to stick around. But one thing I just think, like, remember back in the day, like, we'll know we'll lose him at some point, but like Ben Johnson will be here 5, 6, like teams, like, it wasn't all of this willy foo every year, somebody going, somebody coming type stuff. It wasn't all of this, teams stuck together that, they tried to build and do other stuff like that. And of course, I don't know if that's what's going to happen, but Dan Campbell is from one of the oldest schoolists of coaches, and that's, the Parcells tree. So maybe that's what they got going on here. Maybe they really willing to build this thing into a monster and then go do something. That'd be dope, but who knows, I'm hoping that that's what it is. I'm hoping that Ben Johnson really got the confidence that we really about to be something and we don't stick around, win a couple, and then he'll go do this thing.
Well, for me, all I got to say is Ben is back, baby. And this Queen of the Prowl had no doubt from the very start. If you remember Monday, I told you, don't worry. This story here in Detroit is way more important to Ben Johnson right now than the money. Look, he could go make the money and fall on his face, and then what? He ain't got nothing continuing forward. He's got a bad rap. See what I'm saying? But you stay in Detroit with this build, and even Dan Campbell brought it up himself on the Manning cast, talking about how, they've got some unfinished business here, and not being in the playoffs this year just fueled enough fire. They are a playoff-worthy team, and they are, say, Brad Holmes thinks that they're ahead of the build. So Ben Johnson has a huge story here developing that could really make him a household name across the board everywhere in the NFL. So there's no doubt he's going to stay here and he's going to lead the charge. And who knows, maybe at some point he might take over Campbell as head coach here.
What really put fear in me was the domino effect that Ben Johnson leaving would have, because if Ben Johnson went to the head coaching job, he hasn't been in the league that long. He's been in the league for a few years, but like, who is he going to take with him? Maybe he takes Deuce Staley to be his offensive coordinator. Maybe he takes Calvin Shepard to be his defensive coordinator. It's like, now we're not just minus Ben Johnson.
He can take Aaron Glenn.
You know what I'm saying? Like, Aaron Glenn wouldn't leave one defensive coordinator job to be another. You know what I'm saying? But
right. Train a bicycle for a bicycle.
Maybe, I'm just saying, like, what other coaches from the staff is he gonna pluck? Maybe Antoine Randall. Maybe he takes him. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was my biggest concern, was not Ben leaving. Well, it was Ben leaving, but Ben leaving, and who else gonna go with him? What positional coach is gonna go with him and become a coordinator? And that's like the domino effect was making me nervous. It was making your boy a little bit. I was like, oh man, like so. Yeah.
Well, I think for a lot of Lions fans, it was a lot like, this team has been suffering for a very long time. And just as soon as we get good, you're almost waiting for the bad news to hit. You're waiting for that shoe to drop. But you know what? Those worries are swept under the rug now, because we ain't got to worry about welcome Ben. Come on, bring it. Bring what you got next season, because the Lions are on their way. Talk about the road to Detroit. We're talking about the road to the Super Bowl, baby. So let's go one prod with the Detroit Lions this year under the helm of Ben Johnson.